Hello and welcome back to Soma Talks, a space where body and mind meet. Today's episode is an invitation to pause, to learn something new, but also to remember again something that your body somehow already knows. Today we are talking about Savasana, often called the final relaxation in yoga. But what if I told you that it's not the easiest pose, although some may think so? But actually, it's supposed to be the hardest one. Before we start, here's the quick agenda. We will begin with a question, what is Savasana? Followed by, why is it supposed to be the hardest asana? Then we will discuss philosophical meaning and goal of Savasana, followed by psychosomatic effects, so the body-mind connection. Then, why we struggle to relax so much, and the role of body scan in Savasana. I will also share some practical tips how to enter and stay in Savasana and how to bring it into your daily life. If you are ready, let's begin. What is Savasana? Savasana, sometimes translated from Sanskrit as corpse pose, may sound intense, but its physical form is very simple. You just lie on your back, you close your eyes, and you stay still. Nothing to stretch, no effort, no visible action. And yet, internally, this is where the real practice begins, the practice of our mind. Because Savasana removes distraction, it removes movement. So we have nothing to focus on, no posture to get right, no performance, just you and your awareness. Why is it actually the hardest posture? In yoga, we think often that the hardest asanas are the most physically demanding ones, like arm balances, inversions, or deep back bends. But many yogic traditions consider Savasana to be the most difficult one. Why? It asks for something far more subtle than strength or flexibility. It asks for complete surrender to the present moment. In practice, it means letting go of control, releasing effort, being still without distractions, and staying present without doing anything. And nowadays, for many of us, it sounds impossible because we are constantly overwhelmed with what is happening. Most of us are deeply conditioned to stay busy, mentally, physically, emotionally. So when everything stops, we meet the restlessness that we usually move past. We struggle with thoughts that we usually distract from, or the tension that we didn't even realize we were holding within. In this sense, Savasana becomes a mirror, not always comfortable but deeply honest. It reflects what is happening within us. The third part worth mentioning is the philosophical meaning and the goal of Savasana. On a deeper level, Savasana is not just relaxation, obviously. It's a philosophical practice. The name corpse pose points to something profound, a symbolic death. Of course, as I said, not in a literal sense, but the temporary dissolution of identity. In Savasana, you practice letting go of any roles, of your ego, of any effort, of who you think you are. For a moment, there is no striving self. There are no desires, no wishes to be fulfilled. Only awareness, witnessing your body. In classical yoga philosophy, this reflects the distinction between the body and mind, which are constantly changing, and the awareness itself, which is stable, is observing. The goal of Savasana, therefore, is not just to relax. It is rather to experience yourself beyond any tensions, beyond any activity, beyond identity. It's a glimpse of stillness that always exists underneath everything. And this is why it is placed at the end of practice. Not as a reward, but rather as a doorway to integrate everything that was happening during the practice. This is a moment when your body already made all the effort and your mind is prepared to get into stillness. Now let's focus on the psychosomatic effects, so body and mind connection during Savasana. Shavasana is one of the clearest examples of how deeply the body and mind are connected, are linked to each other. When a body becomes still, the mind begins to shift. And when the mind softens, the body releases further. This is the psychosomatic loop of Shavasana. Some key influences of this practice include nervous system regulation, because we are shifting from stress into rest and digest mode. Also, muscle memory release. So, unconscious holding patterns begin to dissolve when we deeply relax. Also, breath normalization, because breath becomes slower, deeper, and more efficient. And mental clarity, because our cognitive overload becomes a bit reduced when we get into those relaxation states. But there's also something more subtle. When you consciously relax the body, you send a signal of safety to the brain. And when a brain perceives safety, it reduces the need for constant vigilance, constant alertness. Over time, this can really reduce chronic tensions. It can improve emotional regulation, your resilience, and increase your mindfulness capacity. So as you see, Shavasana is not really passive, although it is seemed to be so. It is rather a change, a transformation of the entire system within. Why do we really struggle to relax? Let's name it clearly. Relaxation is not easy. Doing nothing is not natural for a mind that is constantly stimulated nowadays. So, in Shavasana, you might notice restlessness, some racing thoughts, worries, the urge to move or to adjust, or subtle discomfort in stillness, both from your body and mind. This is why Shavasana is the hardest asana, because it removes all external challenges and reveals the internal ones. And here's the shift. Shavasana is not about achieving relaxation, but it's about allowing whatever is present. Even if that includes tensions, thoughts, impatience, emotions, this practice is not to fix it. This practice is to stay present, even though those things appear. Before moving to the practical tips that I would like to share with you, let's discuss quickly the role of body scan, because Shavasana can feel abstract, and many teachers introduce it through the body scan. A structured awareness practice, where attention moves through our whole body, from our feet, through legs, hips, abdomen, chest, arms, face, and so on. It gives the mind a gentle anchor, a way to transition from thinking into sensing and observing. It's important to remember that the body scan is not the goal, but it is a bridge into Shavasana. It can enable us to get into this relaxation state a bit more easily. Over time, you may rely less on guidance and more on simply resting in awareness. Body scan is not only a way to get into Shavasana, but it's also a relaxation technique itself. So if you never tried it, definitely do so. Now I will share with you some other practical tips to enter Shavasana, because it really may feel difficult. Here are some ways to support your practice. Firstly, set up your body for comfort. Use support if needed. You can use a rolled blanket under the knees or a bolster. Also, you can use a layer of warmth like blanket or some blues, because physical discomfort often blocks the mental relaxation. So this is why we really need to set this comfortable environment for our body in order to relax the mind. Secondly, start with some structure. As I mentioned, for example, body scan can be a good introduction, or gentle breath awareness. You can make some breathing exercises before getting into deep Shavasana. You can also exhale with sound, which helps us relieve all the tensions that we still have within. So also give your mind something soft to follow, instead of forcing it to be quiet. As I say, it can be breath, it can be body scan, it can be some visualization. Thirdly, allow movement at first. If needed, make some small adjustments at the beginning. Just set yourself comfortably on the mat or on the blanket and then gradually invite stillness. Shavasana is something that you arrive into. Remember that. Release the idea of doing it right. That's another thing. There is no perfect Shavasana. If you are aware of your experience, you are already practicing it, and that's perfectly enough. Then stay longer than feels natural. Often the first few minutes are just the surface and we may feel very uncomfortable. The deeper effects come with time, so even extra 5 minutes or 3 minutes can change the experience completely. Just stay a bit longer and observe what happens. Maybe next time you would actually like to stay longer because you will see how much help it gives you and how much relief it gives you. So how to bring Shavasana into daily life? It doesn't have to stay only on the yoga mat after practice. You can bring Shavasana essence into every day. For example, pausing before reacting, taking this one conscious breath between tasks, or sitting in stillness for a minute without any distraction. This is all a way of practicing Shavasana. These are micro Shavasanas, we could say, small resets, moments where you stop and you return just to yourself and your awareness. Basically, Shavasana teaches us something very radical, that stillness is not passive, but it is deeply transformative. The rest, the process of recharging, is not something you earn, but it's something you need. It's not an award, it's your necessity. And that the hardest thing we can do might be to just let go and be present. Thank you for being here with me on Soma Talks. In the next episode, we will go a bit deeper and it will be something special, but it is still a little surprise for you. I hope you really liked this episode and you found something interesting here. Maybe for those who don't practice yoga yet, it's a kind of invitation to explore yoga and finish it with Shavasana. Or for others who already are familiar with Savasana, this episode might have opened some new windows of knowledge that you didn't really have before. So if you liked it, please recommend it to your friends who might also like it. Leave some comments, leave some likes, subscribe to the channel, and until next time. Soma Talks, Agata Daras.